Good evening. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to the Legislative Action Committee of the City, Middle, and High School PTSA and the Greater Grand Rapids Area PTA Council Candidate Forum this evening. As most of you may know, if you have been involved with PTA, it is the goal of PTA to make sure that voters are informed as far as issues and as far as candidates. And so this evening we are very pleased to have all 7 candidates who are running for this year's school board. And first of all, we want to offer our appreciation for 7 fine people to step up and say that you are interested and concerned enough about our children and our school system to be prepared and ready to dedicate this type of time and commitment to our schools. My name is Tempe Mann. I'm a former PTA council president. I will be the moderator. Ted will be our timer. He will motion to you with cards as far as how much time you have left for each and every question. We will begin with a 2-minute opening remark by each candidate, and then you will be allowed to have a 1-minute time limit to respond to each question, and then at the end we will also have a minute for you to have a closing remarks. We will start with round robin. We'll go around. Every person will answer the question, and then we'll start with the next person and continue with this until we either exhaust the questions or exhaust you. So if we could start with Mr. Baker, if you could give us some opening remarks, please.
Okay, thank you. My campaign theme is We Are Grand Rapids Public Schools, and I was thinking about that as I was walking around getting my signatures from my neighbors and thinking about what does my 80-year-old neighbors next door have about the Grand Rapids Public Schools. And I began to think that this is really the community schools, the public schools are our schools, and the schools need to be claimed by my neighbors, but also they need to see that they have an ownership of them. And so that's where I began to think about what we need to do. I'm a father of 2 children that are in the Grand Rapids Public School. Maya and Sammy are both at the Grand Rapids Montessori Public. I'm a professor of sociology at Ferris State University. I've been there for about 10 years. I came to Ferris from Chicago, where I went in 1985 to work on my doctorate in sociology because I wanted to find ways to deal with the inequalities associated with race and class in America. And I've pretty much continued to pursue those pursuits through researching, through teaching, through working with kids ever since. And certainly looking at education as one of the major and only institutions that have really been put in place in this society to try to accommodate those to get to these issues of equality. And so in the last year, I began to think that where I needed to do my work in this arena is here in the Grand Rapids Public Schools. My specific policy concerns that I'd like to see addressed, I'm very interested in early childhood education. I think that investing more in early childhood education is one for sure way that we know works that will improve the situation of low-income children, especially to catch up to the class. And I also am really interested in providing my expertise in being able to communicate across constituent lines, especially considering some of the disunity in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Ms. Geetson?
Hi. First of all, I'd like to thank the PTSA for hosting this event. My name is Jane Geetson, and as you think about me, I would like you to remember 3 things: passion, commitment, and skills. First of all, passion. A lot of people ask me, why are you doing this? And I say, because I have skin in this game. I have an 8 and a 10-year-old daughter that attend the Grand Rapids Public Schools. We've been involved with the system for 7 years now. It's been a fabulous experience. It's because of a teacher that we're here. We were looking at moving to the suburbs because we believed the rhetoric. We didn't check it out for ourselves. He encouraged us to do so, and we decided to stay and have not regretted it. Commitment. I've been involved from the classroom to the boardroom with regard to Grand Rapids Public Schools. I've given of my time, talent, and treasure at my daughter's schools, and in addition, I've been involved in 2 facility committees, raised nearly $40,000 for North Park Schools master planning process. I'm on the Parent Advisory Council for the superintendent and have been involved in many other initiatives through the years, so I'm very familiar with the issues. And last but not least is skills. I am a graduate and a facilitator for the Institute for Healing Racism, have been involved in Leadership Grand Rapids as well as Leadership West Michigan, and also had 9 years of experience working at the largest employer in West Michigan, Spectrum Health. I manage very large capital and operating budgets, so I have that skill set, and have managed a great deal of wholesale change in that organization over those past 9 years, and I think I can translate those skills into this role. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Geeson. Mr. Griffin.
Good evening, and I want to thank the PTSA and the Legislative Action Committee at City Middle and City High School for this opportunity. We've really enjoyed our forums. We've had 2 of them already, getting to know each other and getting to articulate our ideas. I've been a Grand Rapids Public School employee for, it seems like forever, but 28 years. When my wife and I moved here to Grand Rapids 42 years ago, I began my career in education, and I've been involved in education ever since then. In Grand Rapids, I was an elementary school teacher and an elementary school principal. When my wife was having surgery, I even served as a supply secretary after I had retired. So I've seen the school system from the inside out. And Grand Rapids Public Schools is important to me. One of our children graduated from Creston High School, so I guess I can sort of vicariously claim myself as a polar bear. But what I really want to do in the next 4 years when I'm elected to the Board of Education is to become one of the loudest cheerleaders for the Grand Rapids Public Schools that they've ever had, because I do believe that Grand Rapids is providing a good education for our children. There are those situations that are difficult. There are children who have difficult situations and so on. But I really believe for the vast majority of our children, Grand Rapids provides a superior education. And I think we need to get the message out there that the rumors that exist just simply aren't true. There are instances where we have difficulties, agreed. But those instances, by and large, are taken care of through the processes that already exist. I will give all of my effort to the Grand Rapids Public Schools Board of Education because I am retired. All I have to do is volunteer at Meyer Gardens once a week and at Harrison Middle School once a week. And the rest of the time I have available for the Grand Rapids Board of Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Reverend Hoskins.
Thank you. First of all, let me also say thank you to the City High Middle School PTSA Legislative Action Committee and all of you that are here tonight, particularly the four-stated Legislative Action Committee for placing this forum on or organizing this forum. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to sit amongst some colleagues and some persons that are running to be colleagues, and I can appreciate the community for just coming out, those of you that are here on tonight. I've served on the Board of Education for the last 4 years, and 2 of those years, the last 2 years, currently this year as president and 1 year as vice president. I've had some good times in doing that, but we've had some challenging times. And some people may say, well, why are you running again for the Board of Education? Well, the reason that I am running, some of the reasons are because our rich heritage of providing quality education or public education to all of our children is facing enormous challenges. And as a candidate and as current president of the Grand Rapids Board of Education, I'm dedicated and I'm committed to helping to continue to create and to fight for solutions. And I really solicit your vote on May 6th. But some of the reasons that I am running for re-election is to help to realize the full potential of all of the students. We have some awesome students in this district. We have some very intelligent students in this district, as you can see from the recent MEP scores, as you can see from City High Middle with the accolades that they've been receiving on a national level. So we have some very high potential students, but I want to help them to realize those potentials, and also assuring a quality education, even with limited fundings. My campaign slogan is a champion for quality education. I want to also increase and enhance the level of parental and community involvement. That's really a big piece of my platform is community and parental involvement. I also want to help support emphasizing staff development from the top to the bottom, and also help to get healthy and safe schools.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Hoskins. Mrs. Lanier.
My name is Sunita Lanier, and I am an appointed member of the Grand Rapids Board of Education. I was appointed in October of 2007, and I am actually running now to finish out the term that I was appointed to, which is one year remaining on that term. Who am I? I'm a graduate of Creston High School. I'm a true polar bear, Gordon. And I am a parent of a student who attends Grand Rapids Public Schools. I am a wife, and like I mentioned, a mother of one. I'm a member of a local church in this community. What will you get if you support Sunita Lanier? You will get someone who has business experience in finance, labor relations, community relations, human resources, business management. And so I think all of those things allow me to have the tools needed to make some of the decisions that's been made for this district. Why support me? My theme is supporting our future leaders, and I believe the future leaders of this community deserve the tools to compete in this global economy. So some of those tools may be state-of-the-art facilities, textbooks, and out-of-the-box curriculums to push them forward. And I'm ready to support those things. I've already supported the University Prep Academy as well as Ellington Academy. And I also have relationships with the business sector, which helps me to develop more of those business partnerships that we need to move this district forward. Finally, I'm also a member of the Student Advancement Foundation, where we've raised millions of funds to help the Grand Rapids Public Schools, and I will continue to support that endeavor. Because of time, I will just lead you to my website to find out more information. That's electsunita.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lanier. Mr. Martin.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the City High PTSA and Legislative Committee for putting on this forum. My name is Derek Martin, and I have been active in the school district for the past 12 years since being a freshman at Grand Rapids Central High School. My family has been in this community for more than 70 years. I'm running for the board to help provide equal opportunity to all students for quality education, and to provide accountability and oversight between the school district, the staff, and the community. There's a reason why our founders have 3 branches of government, and there's a reason why we have a Board of Ed. And my opinion is that our board has become obsolete, and in the time that I have been here, which has been short, this is one of the most voiceless boards I have witnessed. I am also running to help provide safe school environments that foster respect for yourself and others, increase relationships with law enforcement and neighborhood associations, to provide a continuous and mutually respectful dialogue between administrators and staff, as well as increased opportunities to dialogue with the community, other than just at board meetings. There's a need for constituent services from this board and its members. I also would like to see an increase in parental involvement through incentives and grassroots efforts. I have been exposed to the budget of this school district longer than anyone that sits at this table. I have experience working on boards, having worked on the City Appeals, Housing Appeals Board, and Income Tax Review Boards, as well as working in the community on other different initiatives. And I also have a schedule that fosters availability to serve on this board. So for those reasons and many more, I ask for your vote on May 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Mr. Pena.
Thank you for putting together this important event for the community. And thank you, all of the candidates, for being willing to participate as a candidate. And we need people who really have passion for education, and helping this community in education is one of the best we can do as citizens. I have been privileged to serve in the board for the last 7 years, since 2001, and I would like to continue working together in order to make the Grand Rapids Public School the best school for all of the children. I believe in education is the only way we can solve our problems. When I see people like this group tonight that are interested in education, I respect a lot those people, because helping a community in education is the best way to defend the community. And I think all of the problems in America will be solved whenever we have the level of education or everybody have to solve our problems. At the same time, I represent all of the children of Grand Rapids, but also I am a Spanish, the only Spanish person on the board. I think we have to have a balanced board. We have 40% of the African American community in the board. We have representing from the white community. I think we need a voice for the Spanish community, and not only for the Spanish community, if not for 40 plus different language that Grand Rapids Public School is teaching at the present time. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get any started, I should mention that this forum is being translated in Spanish, and it's being sponsored by El Vocero paper. So we are very, very pleased with that, and hopefully that will give us another voice for other constituents to be able to be a part of this forum. So now we'll get started with the questions, and we will start with Ms. Geetson. First question: what specific goals and ideas do you have for addressing priority issues in Grand Rapids public high schools?
Well, I think that the board is on the right track with these Centers for Innovation. What I've learned about this community in the years that I've lived here is that if we have the will to fix an issue, we can fix it. The business partners and the people in this community have the financial wherewithal as well as the will to do anything they choose. I think these Centers of Innovation are an excellent start at that. I think really what we need to do is work hard to get programs that will attract our middle class back into this community. Many of them haven't left, but their children have left. And if we can convince them that we have good quality programs that their children can go to, I feel that will go a long way. I'm a firm believer in the tide raises all boats.
Mr. Griffin, same question.
I agree as well that I think the board is on the right track in suggesting the Centers of Innovation. The concern that I have about that is that teachers need to be intimately involved in the development of that, and I'm not sure that that's happened yet. Hopefully that will continue to happen as the Centers of Innovation are created. They're the ones that are going to have to put into practice what's being proposed, and I really think they need to be honored and being given the opportunity to buy into the process. I'm also happy with the change to trimesters. I think this will help our high school students who are having some struggles meeting the minimum graduation requirements have another chance to make up those credits that they may not have passed, as it were. So that will give them a chance to catch up. And also it will give a chance for those who do well to be involved in some kind of exploratory courses.
Reverend Hoskins?
Certainly would definitely echo that for Centers of Innovation because I've been a part of helping to bring that to fruition. I'm excited about the College Prep Academy. I'm also happy about the Ellington Academy. But not only that, we have had teachers on the committee for the Phase 2 steering committee. I'm excited about that. The new possibility of high schools if that bond comes forth and if it's passed. Also, not just the facilities, the bricks and mortars, but the changes in the academics. So I would certainly support making sure that the academic curriculum is conducive for global increase for our students. And on top of that, then the bricks and mortars. So those are some of the areas.
Mrs. Lanier?
Well, I'm in favor of the thematic school at the secondary level. I'm also in favor of increasing the parental involvement at the high school level. I know that very often during those years, that's when parents start allowing their children to have a little bit more freedom in the schools. And I think that I have a high school student, and I'm very actively involved in what happens and what classes she's choosing. I know her probably better than anybody else, even probably better than she knows herself sometimes. So to be actively involved, I think that increasing parental involvement at the secondary level is another good idea. And then peer conflict resolution. We talk about issues that students may face at the secondary level, and I'd like to see other students helping their peers to deal with those conflicts, to engage those students in some dialogue to help them to make better choices. Mentoring programs are definitely key at the secondary level. And then finally, community involvement. I just actually attended a dinner for the older adult volunteer services, and those are the types of things we need in our community schools.
Thank you, Ms. Lanier. Mr. Martin.
I think part of tackling the issues that we deal with as a district, particularly in reference to the comprehensive high school plan, is that we have to involve the folks who actually go into the classrooms every day. Teachers have not been consulted enough. This is one of the largest reorganizations of a school district this size anywhere in the country in regards to secondary education. And we must make sure that all of our teachers' voices are heard, because they will be the ones who actually have to carry out the plans of this district. But I think open and honest dialogue and teamwork between the staff, the administration, and the community, more involvement from neighborhood associations, recreate a sense of community in schools. Someone told me the other day there's no such thing as a community school anymore. You used to go to the school in your neighborhood. If we can in some way recreate that sense of community in schools, I think that would definitely benefit the district. And increase relationships with GRPD, liaisons from the police department for every school, not just for safety issues, but for role model issues, and an increased relationship between law enforcement and the community.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Pena.
The smallest school in a school, I think this is one of the best programs that the Grand Rapids Public School is in planning right now, because the importance of a high school diploma in technology, in health, construction, is going to help those kids that don't have enough resources to go to college, university, to get the diploma and go and very right after get the diploma can go and get a job. That is, really the situation in Grand Rapids require that those students, they don't reach the college and degrees. They can go and graduate in a small school in a school. This is one of the best programs that we have nationwide right now. I applaud that if we can have this program in Grand Rapids Public School.
Thank you, Mr. Pena. Mr. Baker.
Thank you. I like some of the ideas that they're suggesting, the small schools and the theme schools and the trimesters to solve some of the community, some of the problems that might occur. But two things that I'd like. One is increased community involvement. That's what I mean by the community taking ownership. I think that in this community of Grand Rapids, we must have hundreds of college professors and thousands of people who work in higher education. And yet there are plenty of students that go to our schools that don't know or don't have the resources to figure out how to get to college. And I think that that's just an example of the ways that we have resources in the community that I would help to encourage to develop further. I think that in the high schools, the new curriculum, the state curriculum, is going to provide challenges in terms of the number of years of English and science and math, et cetera. And I think that that's good. It's preparing kids for college. As a college professor, I like that they're going to get there with those things, but I think that we're going to also have challenges to deal with those kids who aren't quite capable of getting there, and what are we going to do in terms of preparing them for their future.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. This question is rather lengthy. I'm going to try to paraphrase and then give you the actual question. Mr. Griffin, we're going to start with you. This person is asking in response to how we have been having schools closing and programs moved around. They are referring to the fact that Kalamazoo City has a promise for their students and how this promise has increased their families being brought back to the cities and students returning to the Kalamazoo Public Schools. So the question is, if you were elected, would you favor putting board and administration energies into securing such a promise for Grand Rapids Public Schools?
Why not? I think it's an excellent thing. My grandchildren are in Kalamazoo, and unfortunately they just moved to Portage, so they're not going to be able to take advantage of the promise. But I think it's an excellent idea. We certainly have the resources in this county to do the same kind of thing. I would be very much interested in being involved in the development of something like that, because I think it gives a promise to students who may otherwise not have the resources to get to college. When my sons went to Western Michigan University, our son was, I think he was the only minority in a class of 300 who were studying secondary education. And that's pretty sad. I think the Kalamazoo promises an opportunity to change that. That would be really ideal if we could do that in this city. I know we've got a lot more students than they do in Kalamazoo, but I think it could be done given enough effort. And I certainly would be one of the cheerleaders supporting that.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Reverend Hoskins?
Certainly would be in favor of that. As a matter of fact, we're moving. We need to keep our energy in that direction. The question was, should we put our energy in that direction? It's already heading in that direction. Certainly need to keep it in that direction. It's heading that way when, again, going back to the CEO group. Never before has that many CEOs, business leaders been involved in the school system or had an interest in the school system. So certainly that's already happened, and we need to make sure that we do that. Dr. Taylor is gleaning those partnerships along with Doug and Maria DeVos and the Wege Foundation. So we certainly need to keep moving that way. Doug and Maria DeVos are paying for after-school tutoring. That's in the works now with 15 local churches. They're connecting individual students with 15 churches and paying for the mentoring and tutoring. So certainly we're number 2. Grand Rapids is number 2 philanthropically in the nation. We have the resources. We need to move that way.
Ms. Lanier?
Most definitely, I'd be interested in entertaining the conversation about having a promise here in Grand Rapids. And the person who asked the question, if you are interested in financing that promise, I'd certainly like to have a conversation with you after this forum. I think that it can only positively impact this community, not just the schools, not just the students. Ms. Yeatson talked about winning back those families to this school district. Not only would we win back families to the school district, we'd also gain new people to this community. Kalamazoo's real estate has gone up because of the promise. And I think that as we look at something like the promise, we need to engage into the dialogue that we could possibly make a difference in Grand Rapids. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
Just to echo what everyone has already said, we definitely have the financial infrastructure for such a project. So I would definitely, as a board member, be committed to a Grand Rapids promise.
Mr. Pena?
I think it's, I agree with everybody here saying the same. The Kalamazoo promise, this is a dream. I would like to one day wake up and have that implemented in Grand Rapids Public School. I think any community to have that promise is going to enhance the education. And I think we have enough people here in Grand Rapids with the money that can do that and help this community that everybody loves to be in, because it's one of the greatest city in the United States is Grand Rapids.
Thank you, Mr. Pena. Mr. Baker?
Well, certainly as a parent of expecting 2 future college goers, I'd certainly be, I would love that opportunity, and it would shift some of my plans for where I'm saving my money right now. But I think that it's fantastic. The charity is fantastic, but I really feel like there has to be a structural change in the society. I mean, education and the accessibility of college has to be something that we can all expect, and not just by living in a generous community. And so, although I would certainly, as a board member, jump at the chance to sit down with someone who wants to help fund this kind of situation, I think that we have to advocate for increased resources so all kids at least also can aspire academically to get to college. And I would also say that we have to lobby at other levels of government to provide for a structural change in society that provides the possibility of universal college education. Our society must do it. I mean, we are going to be very much behind in competition if we don't do it.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Ms. Geeson?
Well, I think somebody mentioned a dream. I remember laying in bed that night when they announced the Kalamazoo promise, and I really had thought I had had a dream. It was nothing short of genius in my mind. That the economic development engine that Kalamazoo has introduced is phenomenal, and I believe, and when I referenced will in the answer to my first question, that's exactly what I was referring to. The partnerships that we've developed over the last couple of years are much healthier than they've ever been. with regard to the CEOs and the people of influence in this community. So I think we are much closer to attaining a promise for Grand Rapids than we were 3 or 4 years ago. So yes, I would be in support of that. As Mr. Baker or Dr. Baker said, I also would repurpose some of my funds.
The next question. Could you name 3 ideas that you have to improve the quality of education in the district while also improving the graduation rates? Reverend Hoskins?
Certainly. Number 1 would be parental involvement, not necessarily in this order, but parental involvement. Several books that I've read, namely one that I just read, which is Achievement Matters by Hugh B. Martin, who is the former CEO, director of the National Urban League, talks about education is key. When you have parental involvement, parents involved in the children's education, it's a key to their success. So that would be number 1, and not necessarily in this order. Secondly, I would make sure that there's a conglomeration of community leaders involved. It takes a village to raise children. Academics has to come first. We know safety is involved in there also, so we need to make sure that the buildings are secure, healthy, not just safe as far as physically, but making sure that our children are healthy. When we do that, they can come to school. That environment is fostered for education, and academics will increase.
Mrs. Lanier?
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, what ideas, and it was asking that you name 3,
Okay.
do you have to improve the quality of education in the district while also improving the graduation rates?
Okay. The first, and actually they'll be very similar to Mr. Hoskins, community involvement. I think the Centers of Innovation is an example of the community involvement that I'm thinking of, is engaging the community financially, engaging the community to volunteer, engaging the community to actually invest in some shape or form. Every member of this community can help out this district, so community involvement would be 1. Peer conflict resolution. Some of our schools already have peer conflict resolutions, but I'd like to see that beefed up. I'd like to see us get more training to our students to be able to resolve their conflicts at a school and peer level. And then finally, I'd actually like to see, and this may not necessarily be direct to the change of the school and the graduation rate, but I'd like to see more labor relations and there to be more partnerships between the administrators and our labor partners.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
One thing that has been very important to me is safety in schools, an environment that fosters success, academic success. Parental involvement is very vital to a school district, but we must also create or recreate that sense of community in each school and increase relationships with our law enforcement, not for the purposes of just safety, but for the purposes of allowing them to serve as mentors to students and to keep our schools safe.
Thank you. Mr. Pena.
Yes, the first thing is the safety school, good disciplinary action, parent and community involvement, and make sure that we have the classroom as a sanctuary, where everybody come to willing to learn, willing to teach, without anyone disturbing that environment. This is the most important. When we have that, everybody's going to learn, everybody's going to cooperate, and I think the parents and teachers have to be in a collaborative working environment in order to control education.
Thank you. Dr. Baker.
I would suggest, again, I mentioned this, the importance of early childhood education. And we know that children from low-income backgrounds are often getting to kindergarten already behind. And so there's researchers at Michigan State who call this inequality at the starting gate. So we begin at 5 years old and we're already behind. I ask my students often how many of them at the age of 5 consider themselves artists, and most students will raise their hands. Then I ask them again how many at the age of 16 consider themselves artists. Most of them won't raise their hands. And I think that We have to make sure that the children stay engaged in their education and continue to see themselves as active learners and aspire for the ideas in life that's possible. And a way to do that is to, again, engage the community resources and also having the counselors and other people who can begin to step in when the children begin to disengage from the school or begin to see that they're not capable of achieving their goals. Thank you.
Mrs. Eason?
I think the trimester initiative that's going on is going to go a long way to giving us some flexibility with curriculum, because not everybody learns at the same pace. We'll be able to have credit recovery opportunities as well as extended multiple trimesters to address children that are having challenges with certain topics. As others have said, community and parent involvement, involvement with the neighborhood associations. We have very strong neighborhood associations in this community that are wanting to be involved. And last but not least, our business partnerships. Like I work with Spectrum Health. We're having discussions with Grand Rapids Public Schools about creating a pre-K through high school healthcare program. We at Spectrum Health are going to be hiring 3,000 people in the next 5 years. That's a lot of people, and they're going to come from the Grand Rapids Public Schools.
Mr. Griffin.
Boy, it's nice to be last. I don't disagree with any of my colleagues, but there's one thing I wanted to emphasize, and that's trust. I think we need to trust our teachers. Teachers, for the most part, give an awful lot beyond the 6-hour day that they're paid for. I remember when I was a teacher, we even spent our vacation time looking for things that I could bring back to the classroom. Teachers are intelligent, giving, creative, innovative people, and they need to be trusted. I don't think that's happened in the past. I think there's been too much top-down leadership in the school district. In fact, sometimes I'd like to see that reversed, where the teachers are on the top and the rest are supporting the teachers. The other is to believe in our kids' future and to believe in them. Believe it or not, kids have some incredible ideas, and then we need to learn to trust the community. The community isn't ignorant. The community knows what kids need. So I think trust is the most important thing we need to do to improve education.
Thank you. Next question. Would you please grade the current board A through F, and what will you bring to the board to increase their GPA?
Well, because I am on the board, I'm definitely going to grade the board an A, just because I think that this board is working well together. I think that this board has asked some challenging questions. I think this board has also made some difficult decisions. And what I would bring, actually, I believe, is some of the experience that I listed earlier. Just really to bring some awareness to what's happening on the Board of Education. I'm really impressed that you put the responsibility of the board on this flyer, because I think part of it is educating the community of what our responsibility is. And I think my business experience, like I mentioned, in finance and community relations, labor relations, and human resources would enhance what's already on the existing board. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
Well, I'm of the opinion that consensus has overshadowed accountability and oversight. So I'm going to give this board an E for effort. But I want a board, and I want to be a member of a board where they're providing that oversight that was meant to be provided, which is why the board was created. One of the things that's not on the back of this Board of Education responsibilities is that board members must serve their constituents. Their constituents are the students. Their constituents are the community. Their constituents are a number of people. But I would have to give this board an E, because they have traded accountability and oversight for consensus. And for me, individuality and accountability and oversight is more important than consensus.
Mr. Martin. Mr. Pena.
I want to be sincere. I don't want to say A. I am the board, secretary of the board, but I'm going to say B, because there's always room to improve. This board, people have to feel the truth of this board. This board is facing a lot of challenges, mainly finance problems. And it's a finance problem. It's not Grand Rapids Public School. It's nationwide. We are investing our money in the wrong way. why we are spending so much money in Iraq and we don't have money to buy books, why we cannot organize the expenditures to make the education the priority in America.
Thank you. Dr. Baker?
Okay, I do grading, but they're not due for a couple weeks, so and my students get frustrated with me for like hemming and hawing, but I'm going to hem and haw here. I'm not going to give a grade. I am going to say that I think that in general there is a disgruntlement in the community. So when I walk around, I think that there are people who feel that the current arrangement, and that would be not just the board, but the administration and all the people, that the current arrangement isn't serving people well. And I think that there has to be a better way to provide that. So I think that this disgruntlement, I also feel that there's a pressure for people to take sides as if there's only two sides. There's many viewpoints, and many people feel that we need to do better at being able to listen to each other and talk to each other. Finally, I think that one thing that I will say is lacking somewhat in the board is I think that there is a board like this needs a variety of expertise, and I have expertise as an educator and someone who analyzes policy and also helps others to understand that I can offer to the board to assist with that. Thank you.
Ms. Gibson?
Gosh, he skated without giving a grade. I think I will give a grade. I would say a B. I think the things that I can bring to this board that are long overdue is we need to do some bridge building. This standoff that we currently have going on is serving no good. It is really, really devastating to this community. We will lose a lot of students over this argument, and that takes a lot of money away from an already stressed district. I believe that I have very solid community connections, which will help in those bridge building efforts. I think I have some skills in holding crucial conversations and crucial confrontations that I will bring to my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin?
I'm a Montessori teacher, and we don't give grades either. But I will give the board a C+, and I'm basing that again on some of the things that have already been said. The feelings that I'm getting, especially when I'm out in the community delivering my information about my candidacy, some of the people have some very critical attitudes toward our school system and the board specifically. And some of it's based on misinformation, and some of it's based on something that happened 10 years ago or 5 years ago that has never been clarified. I really would like to see the Board of Ed to reach out more effectively to the community. The forums that were held to get information on people's viewpoints about the new high school renovation process, I felt were not well done. And I don't really feel that the community had an opportunity to have the kind of input they really needed to have. So I think I'm justified in giving a C+ to the board.
Ron Hoskins.
Thank you. I would give a B+, because I do feel that anyone has room for improvement. You won't reach perfection at anything you do. So I really think that current board is working in a positive direction. It's different if you're sitting idle, just running with your engine going and moving in no direction, but we're moving in some positive directions. I'm in the community all the time. You know, the board doesn't define me. I'm in the community as a pastor, as a leader in several other areas, and I'm hearing more positives than negatives about the school system. So that's just my take on it. And I also would bring, you asked what we would bring, I would bring a continuation of commitment, continuity, commitment in that I keep stressing that in the 4 years on the board, we have several meetings and I've only missed 2.
Thank you. Next question. There are opposing points of view regarding safety in the Grand Rapids Public Schools. What suggestions do you have to resolve this issue? Mr. Martin, we'll begin with you.
I think the one, my top suggestion would be just an open and honest dialogue between the staff, the administration, and the community about what's really going on in our schools. There was some controversy about the safety reports and whether data was calculated factually. I read the incident report, or the summary of the safety report. And to me, it's inconclusive. There are hundreds of incidents that aren't even classified, and there's some explaining to do for those things. But I think we have to increase relationships with our police department, not so much to have them there as a stance of authority, but to recreate the respect for authority in our community. Create a sense of community in school, and I think that will help with regard to safety, and increase technology and better communication between administrators, parents, and Franklin campus and teachers about the incidents that do happen in our schools.
Thank you. Mr. Pena?
Well, what I say is why we have to go and try to solve that problem, going to the media. Why we don't have a round table, brainstorming what is the best way to solve the problem, working together. If we have the same goal, it's education, why we don't have the same direction? Why we don't sit down in a civilized manner and try to do the best for our kids? I would recommend, as I did before, to the union, to the superintendent, the administration, let's sit down and talk about how to solve the problem and the best benefit of the kids. And this is the most important, that we work together for the best education and the future of Grand Rapids.
Thank you. Dr. Baker?
Yes, I spent a lot of time teaching about cities and trying to get rid of the impression that the city schools aren't safe. So I understand Dr. Taylor's viewpoint on this, and I think it's very important to manage the impressions and to get rid of the false myths about the school district. Some of us were at Union High School yesterday during a fire drill. It was perfectly orderly, even though we expected more chaos, just because we would have been chaotic if we had the chance. Tomorrow morning, I'm taking 80 high school students to Ferris State to visit the Jim Crow Museum, and I'm not worried about my safety. Yet, I've talked to a lot of people, city commissioners, parents, teachers, students. Our first debate was sponsored by Alpha Kappa Alpha, and the first question they wanted to know from us is this issue. We need to be able to talk about this objectively. And right now, that doesn't seem to be happening because, again, I think that there's this disunity in the taking sides.
Boy, I can't say much else, but the dialogue needs to occur. As I'm walking around the city, I'm hearing some sad stories. We have to truly listen to the teachers. We have to truly listen to the parents. We have to truly listen to the kids and solve these issues. I too was at Union High School and was extraordinarily impressed at Union and at Alger Middle about the schools and the classrooms. So I think there are some myths out there, and we need to work together to get those myths dispelled. I think engaging with the neighborhood associations, again, would be extraordinarily helpful, and educating administrators, teachers, and support staff on how to deal with conflict. It's a skill. It's a teachable skill, and I think we can do it. And the students. I think it's really essential to teach that skill. It'll come in handy for the remainder of their life.
Mr. Griffin.
I have a couple suggestions, and I think one of them has been mentioned, is to listen and to be honest. I went with the superintendent a couple of weeks ago and talked with him about that, and I guess the most important point that I can think of is to listen and to listen and to listen again, and to try to not make assumptions without really hearing what the evidence suggests. I think there are incident reports that are not properly being written, or they're not being categorized correctly. I think we need to listen to those things that are happening. I too have not seen that kind of thing happening as we've been visiting, but I think we need to, if this is happening, we need to be honest in saying, this is what's happened and this is what we've done about it, so the general public gets the idea that there is a process that exists to take care of these issues.
Reverend Hoskins.
Yeah, I certainly think that communication is key in anything. I think in my marriage, if I don't communicate with my wife or vice versa, we really just have a marriage in name only. So you have to communicate. I've been attempting to do that, and I think some of that has been successful as a bridge builder, consensus builder. I've had meetings with Dr. Taylor, Mr. Helder, and I'll continue to attempt to do that. You can't make individuals do things, but you can certainly try to help foster those and get the ball rolling. Are there problems in our school system? Of course there's problems in any school system. Are our schools unsafe? No. I have 2 daughters in the school system. I love them dearly. I wouldn't place them in some place that was unsafe. Are there unsafe issues that happen in the school system? Certainly. But I have a document that has 26 bullet points in it that we're doing to improve safety. All of them have been implemented, so you have to make sure they're implemented and continue to work towards that mark. You can't just stop it and rest on your laurels. There's unsafe situations that happen, but we have to implement the rules and regulations.
Mrs. Lanier?
I think this is a communication issue. If the district has been completing reports the same way over the course of several years, then the data is apples to apples to apples. When you have someone else looking at the data and coming up with a different result, it's because they're looking at it with an orange. And when you compare apples to oranges, you're going to get confusion. When you're comparing apples to apples, we were able to see that there was a reduction in some of the incidents that have taken place in GRPS. So I first think it's a communication issue. However, in addition to that, I think that there is a need to have dialogue so that we are all on the same page. Some of those things that Pastor Hoskins has mentioned, those are some of the things we have in place to engage all of our faculty in making our schools safer. Thank you.
Next question. We'll try to get all of these all pushed together. What can the board do to address the discipline issues that plague many of the Grand Rapids Public Schools? Mr. Pena, we'll start with you.
Yes, I said before that the most important is working with the community, working with the parents, but we have to send a strong messages to the parent community, all of the stakeholders, to make sure that we have a classroom that is a sanctuary. I'm going to repeat that because we need to make sure that the kids coming to learn and the teachers coming to the school to teach. We have to have that. We have to have discipline. Disagreement and what the administration said, what the union said, this is not the way we're going to solve those problems. And we need to get together because we are bragging that we have the same goal, that is education. We have to have the same direction. This is what we have to do. Communicate better each other for the best of the kids of Grand Rapids.
Dr. Baker?
Yes. There was an article in the Sunday paper about this, and there was a charge that is classroom management. You know what? I think that it probably could be. And so one thing I think that happens is that teachers do need to have access to training. And so I do know that there's available crisis intervention programs that help teachers to learn how to deal with frustrated students and to de-escalate situations. And I also think that some of the issues that could occur could be because of misunderstandings. Ultimately, the children, and I think the Board of Education, if you look at this list of responsibilities for the board, is being asked to solve lots of problems in the community, and we're going to need the community to deal with some of the issues. And finally, I think most of us tend to be disgruntled and frustrated in situations that we're forced to be in and we don't feel part of or we're alienated from, and we need to make sure that we can find ways to make sure that the kids, once they get in the door, are connected to the reason that they're here.
Thank you. Mrs. Keatson?
I think, again, the idea of education is very very important to educate all people involved in the system, the kids, the parents, the teachers, the administrators. The other thing that I found really interesting is listening to some of the student groups that have come up with some ideas around these areas. One is school uniforms. That was proposed by a student group, and they feel it would make their environment better, safer, and it was their idea. It wasn't a parent idea. It was a child idea. And I think there's more of those ideas. I actually was at a board meeting once when they were talking about in-house suspension, and they didn't think it was fair that these kids got to go home almost as a reward. So I think we got to listen to our children because they have some good ideas about discipline. My kids are always harder on themselves than I would be if I allow them to choose discipline. They choose worse things than I would choose.
Mr. Griffin.
Sorry, but I'm going to say this. In a Montessori environment, discipline is a positive aspect of the classroom, and it's prevention. The kids know exactly what it is they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to behave in the Montessori environment. I often think that's unsaid in some of our traditional classrooms. I think if students know exactly what the parameters are and we stick to those parameters and those processes, I don't think we're going to have as many disciplinary issues. The other thing that I'm really happy to hear about is the student advocate positions that are being proposed and I guess are already happening in at least one of the high schools. And those student advocates actually work with students who are experiencing some difficulties now to hopefully prevent something that could escalate in the future. So I really see discipline, and we need to start thinking of discipline as a good thing, not something we have to do to kids after they've done something bad or improper.
Reverend Hoskins.
We know that some of it starts at home, but there's not a whole lot that we can do about it at home, but encourage. And the parents are going to take care of the home the way they feel that they should. But I certainly think that in the school, we need to hold those accountable. If it's in the school building, we certainly need to start at the principal level. Whether it's a principal that has done something wrong or whether it's the students that are fighting, the principal needs to make sure that he or she takes care of the necessary disciplinary actions. And then if nothing happens there, you move it to the administration, the superintendent, and then the board. But we have to be consistent in our consequences. It starts with the school principal. We also have training, the IFL, the Institute for Learning, and a lot of people don't know it, but it's out there. The district offers monthly security training for all staff. It's not mandatory, and maybe without violating the union contract, maybe it could be mandatory some kind of way, but those opportunities are out there.
Thank you. Mrs. Lanier?
First, I'd say increase hope for the students. I think we need to hold them accountable. We need to increase their level of expectations of themselves. They are our future leaders, and we need to start treating them as such, and maybe they'll see themselves as leaders. Secondly, I'd like to say engage parents in the resolutions. My daughter is going to have a fit when she sees this, but one of the things that I have done when I've gotten a call in the past from a teacher, she was saying this in class or she was talking and wouldn't be quiet, I have gone to the store and purchased a uniform, and that was her discipline, wearing the uniform to a school that there are no uniforms for a week. So you choose whether, you want the attention of the uniform or talking in class. So that worked out for us. And then finally, I say, educate faculty and get them involved in the corrective action. Pastor Hoskins has mentioned some of the programs we already have, but I'd like to see faculty engaged in learning more about how to correct some of the actions in the classroom. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
I do agree with Reverend Hoskins that discipline starts at home, but where I disagree is that we can't do anything about that. I think as truly involved and engaged board members, we can do something about the discipline that's happening or not happening in the home. We can start a grassroots effort. We can go door to door, and we can go face to face with parents and make sure that they understand very clearly the expectations that our school district has, that we will not deal with foolishness in the classroom, in the hallways, or around school property. And that needs to be explained to parents, that needs to be re-explained to students, and reinforced with consistency. And again, we go back to sense of community. When I was a little kid, and I might have been on the other side of town, but by the time I got home, my mother knew exactly where I was and exactly what I was doing. So we need to make the community see that it's more than just the one parent's responsibility. It's an entire community's responsibility.
Thank you. Next question. We'll start with Dr. Baker. Now that GRPS is moving to trimesters, what is your position on giving specialty schools, such as City, the choice to participate?
Well, it's a good question. I think that part of the advantages of the trimester, and certainly the way it's presented, is that it is to help students who are having troubles or make mistakes and try to catch up. And I certainly support it from that vantage point. I wondered from the other vantage point is that was it geared towards kids who weren't having those problems? But I would still say that I like, especially, I'm a liberal arts kind of person, and I think that the more opportunities that students will have to be exposed to various subjects, the better that it will be. So I still see a flexibility for City High, the other theme schools, and I think that there's a way that it can work for the for extending a full year curriculum or a two trimester curriculum, and I tend to like it. So.
Ms. Keaton?
I agree with Dr. Baker. I believe that the trimester service kids on both ends of the spectrum, and I know City High has kids on one end of the spectrum academically, and I know that when I was in that situation, the more exposure I had to different topic areas, if I didn't like it, there was a light at the end of the tunnel that was sooner than a half a year, and if I did like the subject, I could pursue advanced area of that particular choice. So I think it does give kids on both ends of the spectrum more opportunity. And I think there's enough movement within our district that having a trimester schedule at one school and not at another could present a challenge.
Mr. Griffin?
I'm not clearly understanding why it would be better for City High to be on a regular semester system than trimester, because those are students who have a lot of interest and a lot of motivation, and it seems to me it would be to their advantage to take opportunities to explore other areas. When I was in high school, I wish there had been a course in horticulture, because that's where I would have ended up instead of teaching students, for heaven's sake. I don't think our students are aware of the fact that there are opportunities for them that may not require college. I think the trimester will make that available to the students who may be at one end of the spectrum or the other. But I'm not sure it's a good idea to have that as a choice for the specialty high schools. I think it should be uniform.
Reverend Hoskins?
I agree with, as Dr. Baker was saying, and maybe not in these words, but I think with City High, it does give them that flexibility. It enhances their educational options, so I think that would be a plus. Certainly the students in other high schools and not saying they aren't challenged in city, but those that are challenged, it certainly gives them an opportunity to catch up on some things or to enhance their educational opportunities, also to make up some credits. But at city, where you seem to have more students that are on the higher academic end, I just believe it would enhance their educational choices. I'm about diversity and having that liberty to not just be in a box, but to be able to explore. So.
Mrs. Lanier?
One of the reasons that we looked into trimesters was to be able to meet the state requirements and the state mandates for the math and science school requirements. And so because of that, it's a district-wide initiative, and we're looking at implementing that throughout all of our schools. So I'd like to hear more from someone, maybe after this forum, of why they would think that having an exemption for city would be something they'd be interested in having. I am in support of the trimester school year, and for the same reasons that the other members of the panel has mentioned. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
Just to echo what everyone else has said, I think trimesters do present a unique opportunity for students who may not learn as fast as other students and who may need to make up credits. But with regard to city, since they do have an advanced curriculum, I don't know that I would favor trimesters for city. But what I would want to do is hear from the parents, the students, and the community members of City Middle High and see what they think and really talk to them and sit down and talk about how it would benefit or how it would not benefit them before I would make that decision.
Mr. Pena?
Yeah, due to the new curriculum from the state, I think the best way is dividing in trimester, and dividing the program in short-term periods help the student understand better all of the issues. Definitely it's going to enhance the learning process. I am against those mandate curriculums, but it's nothing we can do. And the best way to help a student understand the new way to have the diploma, the high school diploma, is the trimester.
We have now reached the 1 hour point. Are all the candidates, are you all fine? Can we continue, or would you like to take a break?
Depends on how much longer we're going to.
Oh, we've got tons of questions. We can go forever.
Where's the punch and cookies?
Okay. Okay, we'll continue for the next 20 minutes and try to finish up all the questions. Okay, next question. Ms. Skeetson, we'll start with you. What actions would you take to hold our local elected officials more accountable for doing more for Grand Rapids Public Schools?
Outside of the board? Local.
It says, as a board member, what actions would you take to hold a local elected official more accountable for doing more for GRPS schools?
Okay, I'll answer it from the perspective that I think I understand the question. I'm assuming it would be with city commission, mayor, etc. I think there are some very good partnerships with the city commission and the mayor at this point in time. I think partnerships can always be enhanced and improved. I do believe there has to be a solid collaboration between the city commission, the mayor, and the school board, because we are one and the same, as goes the city, as goes the school system, so goes the city, and quite frankly the region. So I would even reach into the county government folks and get them much more engaged in the process. I have a fair amount of community connections that would enable me to have that kind of dialogue and open that dialogue if it's not already open.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin?
The question is unclear to me as well. However, I think the best way that we can hold elected officials responsible is to either support or not support their reelection. That's traditionally the way we've done it in this country. And I agree also that we need to make our voices heard regarding Grand Rapids Public Schools' unique problems to our state legislators as well. I know we're active already at the state level and even at the national level. I think one of the representatives from the Board of Ed went to a national meeting. And I think that kind of thing has to continue. We have to make our voices heard. I realize we're in a financial slump here in Michigan, and I hope it's just a bump, not a slump. And yet at the same time, the needs of the classroom and the needs of a large city haven't changed. I think we can put pressure on the state government, but I also think it would be helpful to have the city and the county commissioners involved in that process as well, because they're facing the same problem we are.
Reverend Hoskins?
I think that on the Board of Ed, we have a legislative committee, and we do a lot of lobbying, or I should say lobbying, advocating to the legislators in Lansing. And sometimes we certainly need to more so get with our community persons, the citizens, and have their voice seems to go further than us as elected officials. So we need to make sure that we are out there and encouraging the everyday citizens that are not elected officials to contact those legislators. I also would continue to meet with those legislators and let them know that, hey, you need to have a vested interest in this school system, because it's a $220 million entity, and so goes the district, up or down, so goes the community. City School Liaison Committee we already have, and that's going pretty good because we know one another's issues, and we meet bi-monthly. Mayor Hartwell and myself co-chair that, along with 3 commissioners, 3 board members, as well as staff. So that's already happening, so we continue that.
Mrs. Lanier?
As a member of the legislative committee for the Grand Rapids Board of Ed, and also as a local government affairs representative with my company, I frequently talk to our elected officials about whatever the issues are, especially for the school district, even before becoming a board member. And I'd continue those conversations at the city level, at the county level, and definitely at the state level. And we're also trying to help our community to do the same thing. If there is a piece of legislative on the table at the state level, we're sending information to the parents of our students, asking them to send notices out to their elected officials to have them vote in favor of increasing the revenue for GRPS. So we're educating the community as well as the parents. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
I think it's important that we foster and continue to seek new relationships with all elected bodies in the area. Since I turned 18, I have voted in every election, and I will always vote in every election. And we need to make clear the importance of being an active member of your community. Age diversity on local boards. As a young person who has run for office, it is frustrating as a young person because you have more seasoned individuals of the community saying that young people need to do this and young people need to do that, but when it comes to taking their seats on boards, well, that's okay, you don't need to do that. So we need to make sure that we're encouraging young people and that we're passing the torch and not trying to keep it until the flame goes out. And I publicly called for term limits. That's how we make our elected officials more accountable. Term limits. We don't allow people to serve 15 and 20 and 30 years, although we thank them for their service. We need to allow all members of the community to have an opportunity to serve. I've also called for the board to be elected as city commissioners are, so that they can be more receptive to the entire city community, not just one side.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Pena?
Well, I think we have a very good relationship with our legislator. I am a member of the legislative committee too, and we hold a monthly meeting with the lobby person we have in Lansing to review what he's doing there in favor of Grand Rapids Public School. I think that we cannot wait to communicate with them or revenge with them when they are for re-election. We need to improve our friendship, improve our communication, and see how much we can get for the kids of Grand Rapids.
Well, as an urban sociologist, I've looked at this question, and it's clear that cities that have had strong central city government, a strong mayor or city council, tend to have overall better school systems, and I think it's because of the accountability. I think it's an interesting history for American cities to have a separate government body for the school system, basically on, differences in taxation policies. But what are the consequences? And I think that what's important here, and I'm not suggesting that the city council take over, the city commission take over, but I am suggesting that what is offered is the consequence and accountability. And I think that I came from Chicago, and Chicago has lots of stuff. When Mayor Daley sees a labor dispute, it gets settled, and I want it known that I prefer George Hartwell over Mayor Daley any day. But there has to be a collaboration and an understanding of accountability, and so I think that there needs to be more partnership.
Thank you. Okay, we're down to the last three questions. Okay, folks, you can do this. This is a three-part question. I'm going to try to paraphrase it. We will start with Mr. Griffin. Do you feel there's a need for an increase in hiring more minority, specifically African American, teachers to serve the constituents of those schools which are predominantly minority? Is this an issue, a priority in your mind, and how would you propose an increase in more minority hiring?
I'm not sure I got all three of those, but I think I can answer the question.
Okay.
I even talked to Dr. Taylor about this a couple of weeks ago. That's been a concern of mine from the very beginning when I wanted to run for the Board of Ed. It does concern me that our present staff does not mirror the racial division of our students. Students can relate to people of different cultures, that's true. And I was a representative, one of those folks that worked very hard to make sure that I was being culturally relevant to the students that I taught, especially at Sigsbee School. I learned by activity. We used to have a concerted effort to go to the traditionally black colleges and recruit teachers, and that happened in the 60s and I think maybe even into the 70s, but we haven't done that in many years. and it could be done without a great expense. I think it's critical for our students to see representatives that they can relate to, perhaps in a better way. And I'm discouraged by the fact that we have a mostly a black student population that has a mostly Caucasian teaching staff.
Thank you. Reverend Hoskins?
Yes, ma'am. I certainly would be in favor of seeking, more minority teachers. It's not that teachers that are not minority cannot teach our students, but I'm looking at the not relationship, but the relational aspect as it relates to being able to readily identify where these individuals have come from. And again, I want to stress that it's not that individuals cannot effectively teach a minority student if you're not minority, but the reflection is when you have so many percentages of African Americans in the district, and it's just the opposite of the teaching staff, which are not minorities, it's difficult to be able to comprehend, for me to be able to, I guess, satisfy my own mindset with that. The last part, and I didn't catch the middle part, I think we need to be intentional about going to these minority universities. Again, as Mr. Griffith said, that used to happen. It's not happening now. One person told me, I think they said when I first ran for the board, we only have $5,000 to do that. Well, we've got to go out and find the money because that's, I think, how it's going to increase. I missed the middle part. So,
Mrs. Lanier?
Yes, I believe that the population of our students should be reflected in the population of the staff that's teaching them, and not only teaching them, but the administrators and even those here in the district office. I think that they should mirror one another because I think that it will just build the relationship within the district. I think culturally there are some things that will help the students relate with their teachers better if the makeup was similar to what they're dealing with in their own households, and even actually in the community that they live in. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily take someone being of the same ethnic group as much as it takes someone being in the same culture that they're aware of what's happening in that student's life because they're the neighbor of that student. So I think all of those things would help build a relationship in our existing student population. And then I'd have to say scholarship program for our current students would be one way of trying to build those bridges. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
I think an enhancement in, there is a scholarship, the Minority Teacher Education Scholarship at Grand Valley State University, and I think expanding that program would definitely bring more minorities to the district. But as Reverend Hoskins said, they have provided money for going out and hiring minorities teachers, but again, we need to make, if it's going to truly be a commitment of the school board and the district to have a teaching staff that is reflective of the students, then we need to do more, and we need to spend more, and we need to look further.
What's your opinion?
Yes, I think this is important. The teacher who teach can teach anyone, but really, if we have cultural teachers, the kids can understand better. This is an example. If I am to go to teach in a classroom where I have Spanish and different culture, I can teach better because I understand the culture. I speak the language. In my case, I speak 3 languages. If I teach also the deaf people, I know how to sign. A teacher who can sign, a teacher who can speak the language is going to be much better for the kids understand. And the challenges in the classroom are going to be easier to face if you are a cultural teacher. It's something that we have to improve, hiring more minorities according to the teaching skills.
Yeah, we often talk about how we need to prepare our students to work in a 21st century work world, and the fact is that world is not white, and we need to have. It's not just having African American teachers in classrooms of African Americans, which I think is very important, and I think that the identity issues are very important. And we need to have Latino teachers, and we need to have Asian teachers. And I want my kids in a classroom with an African American teacher or someone with diversity. We have to be able to prepare for this, for diversity. And I think so that's across the board. Absolutely, this is right at all the levels that we can have this conversation. And I advocate this for a living. But I think that another thing is that we have to improve Recruitment at minority colleges are great. I think we have lots of universities, and I'd like to see more of students from Grand Rapids Public Schools end up at Ferris and coming back to being teachers here, or Grand Valley or Michigan State. But we have to also improve the image of the teaching profession. And the fact is that young people of all different races are getting to college with the last thing they want to do is become teachers, and we need to help improve that.
I will start by telling a story. My two children are of a different race than my own, and my daughter is blessed to have an African American teacher, and she was also blessed to have an Asian student teacher. And I'll never forget how the story that was extended to me by her teacher when her student teacher left. My daughter was very sad. She was explaining in the way that she could how exciting it was to have somebody that looked like her teaching her. And her teacher expressed that same sentiment as a young person. She remembered longing for a teacher that looked like her. So I think it's absolutely essential. I think we're going to need some flexibility from the union because unfortunately we recruit these folks, they're pretty new to the district, they're the first to go because of seniority. So I think we do have to be very deliberate in how we recruit and retain teachers of color.
Thank you. Last question. Actually, I have one of my own, but I will ask this one last. What ideas do you have for increasing parental and community involvement in our middle schools, high schools, and Grand Rapids Public Schools district processes and forums? We will start with Reverend Hoskins.
Those are two of my major platforms, community and parental involvement. So certainly, as I don't want to harp on the same thing, but I'm in the community as a pastor. I speak about the school system all the time. So what I propose to do, I pulled together an advisory council, and we're looking to have town hall meetings, for lack of better terminology, and meeting those persons where they are, meeting them at their needs. Some people are intimidated to come into the school system. We need to do a better job of being more freer at the school systems and more invited at the school system. But I certainly, the main thing I would do would go into the community and meet those persons at their need, right in their neighborhood, and have those town hall meetings and hit the pavement, hit the doors. Again, we're already doing that, but we'd have to increase that.
Ms. Lanier?
I'd ask the question of the parents, what is it that you need from us in order for you to be more involved? I'd also diversify our means of communication. Right now, conferences are in the evening. You don't get a whole lot of parents coming out. Does this mean we need to change times of conferences? Do we need to change how we communicate with the parents? Do we need to have conferences in the parents' homes and things of that nature? So I'd say ask the question and then diversify how you communicate with them. Once you ask people what it is that they need, most of the time they respond. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
I've said from the start that we need to go door to door. Meeting parents where they are sometimes means knocking on their front door. And so from the beginning, I've advocated for grassroots door-to-door teams. You'd be surprised how receptive some parents would be to actually see someone from the school district come to their house and visit them. Also, incentives for involvement for students and parents. I think that with some of the relationships that our board members have boasted that we have with local businesses, I think that we should ask those local businesses to help us increase parental involvement by offering incentives and flexibility of involvement. You don't always have to come up to the school to be involved. There are things that people can do at home. There are things that people can do in the community, so they have that flexibility with involvement.
Mr. Pena?
Yes, I propose the same advisory committees, mentoring, training the parents. I think we started training those parents 2 years ago, and we have to continue doing this and showing them the importance that they get involved in the kids' education. We have to compare what is the school behave and home behave. We need to make sure both parties understand the importance of the communication between home and the school in order to enhance the kids' learning.
Thank you. Dr. Baker?
Well, on our PTA, and I think that this is probably common at many, the question always is, why won't they come? And so we're at the PTA meeting and people aren't there. So while they're there, I mean, they're in the community, right? And perhaps we need some sort of a staffing to get engaged, but I don't think that and perhaps the PTAs don't have the resources to do it. But where are the parents? They're at the Christmas special. I know that I went to the Christmas special for the Montessori program, and the Central Auditorium was packed with parents. But there was no opportunity to learn about how to participate in the schools. They're at athletic events. Many parents feel intimidated by school. I would say that this is definitely true given the cultural diversity issues that we've already discussed. And we are going to have to figure out a way to help train those parents. That's a huge, we all know that parents have to be involved. So we have to figure out how to prepare them to be involved, and we can't just complain that they don't show up. Thanks.
I think some of the mistakes we make is we assume this is a one-size-fits-all opportunity. It really isn't. Everybody is in different circumstances, different situations. Some of the things that we've done in our school is we've offered people involvement where we've made a list of different ways that they can get involved that might not even involve coming to the school. It might be preparing a meal for teachers for conferences. And the parental involvement as a result of that has skyrocketed because we gave them options that work in their own lives and their own circumstances. So again, it's about meeting people where they are and maybe figuring out what keeps people away. We've asked that question too and changed times of meetings, days of week. The other thing that I would like to ask of any teacher is please give me notice because in my life, 2 days doesn't work. I need to know ahead of time. So a schedule that's reliable and doesn't change is extraordinarily helpful for me.
Mr. Griffin?
I have a couple of ideas. We were visiting Union High School. Was that yesterday? I think it was.
Yes, it was.
And the principal there, Mr. Chalut, mentioned that they have 70 parents visiting there regularly. I don't know how they're involved, but he mentioned the fact that there were 70 involved. When I was a principal at Congress Montessori, we had the average of 40 parents involved every month. So I think it's possible. I think it has to be a priority on the part of the principal. I don't know why we couldn't have meetings at King Park and Westside Complex and other places like that to meet with parents and have an open meeting and ask, how do you feel you could be involved, or what are some ways we could be involved, and listen to the parents. We were in Florida during spring break, and I was impressed with something I saw. It's called the Parent University. There's nothing required to be a parent, and it seems like a very great opportunity to prepare parents in that kind of a situation to realize that being at the school is part of that responsibility of being a parent.
Thank you. Well, we come close to the end of our forum, but I always have my famous question I ask every person, usually every adult that I run into, and I will ask it of you 7 as well. The school that you are the most involved in, does that school have a PTA, and are you a member? Mrs. Lanier.
The school that I'm mostly involved in, yes, they do have a PTA. Because of the level of my involvement, I'm not a parent in the school that I'm involved in, so I'm not a part of their PTA.
We will get you a card. Okay. Mr. Martin.
The schools that I'm most involved with that I've volunteered at include Ottawa Hills and Central High School. I am not currently a member of either of those PTAs, but I am a former member of Central High School's PTSO, and I look for other opportunities to be involved. So.
We will get you a card. Mr. Pena.
I have 2 favorite schools, Burton School and Southwest Community Campus. And I'm not a member of the PTA, but I am a mentor in both the school and all of the events that they are holding there. I am a volunteer to participate in them. If you want to give me another card, that's fine.
We will get you a card. Dr. Baker.
I got my card. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we have one, and I'm a member of one. So.
Ms. Geetson?
We have a PTA, and I am a member of that PTA, and I am involved up to my eyeballs in that PTA.
You don't want a card,
Thank you.
huh?
You don't want
And
to
I
card.
have a card in my
Thank you.
purse. I will show it to you.
Mr. Griffin?
As the oldest member of this panel, I'm not a member of a PTA currently, but I was on the Board of Ed at Christian High, or at Oakdale Christian when my students attended there. And if you want to give me a card, I'd be most happy to sign it.
Ms. Reverend Hoskins?
Mr. is fine. I'm
Oh,
still, yeah. Same
I've known
person.
you as Reverend Hoskins.
No
Reverend
problem.
Hoskins.
Thank you. When I first ran for the board and became a member of the board, I was on the PTA at Southeast Academic Center for approximately 6 years. No, I'm not currently at Ottawa Hills. Is probably the most school that I'm involved in because I have a daughter there. Also, Alger, I have a daughter, but I'm not on the PTA because of my involvement with the board. We have several meetings, and that takes up a lot of time.
City, middle, and high, we need to get them cards. Okay, we now have closing.
Right. Good evening. I'm Anne Marie Bassett. On behalf of the Legislative Action Committee of City High, I'd like to thank you for being here tonight. I wish to thank GRCC for filming this tonight, and we'll be running on Channel 27. This forum was an opportunity for you to get to know our candidates better. We want to thank all of our candidates for stepping up to and for their willingness to make sure that the state fulfills its obligation in educating our children. Special thanks tonight to Tempe Mann, who serves as an inspiration for her deep and long dedication to PTA, both on local and state, and she still continues as a grandparent. I would like to thank Christine Helms-Miletic, manager of Midtown Neighborhood Association, and Rhonda Grachwalski, former GRPS board member and a parent at City High. They served as our question panelists tonight, and I thank you for that. Finally, I'd like to thank our committee. Without them, this wouldn't have happened. This is several years now that we've been doing this. I thank Andy Bowman, Denise Blair, where you are, Vicki Craig, Ted Benarski, who served as timing tonight, Sarah Potteray, and Kate McCrindle. I'd like to point out that thanks to Kate McCrindle and her company, Imagination Factory, we have been able to have a website at City to help inform parents of what's going on. There's a newsletter up there if you haven't had a look at that yet. Thanks to her, we were able to put that out. And finally, please vote on May 6th. Tell your friends about what you've heard tonight. We had many questions, some that were maybe not able to be answered during this short time, but please contact the candidates. Lots of information also on the website to look there. Thank you so much again to everyone. Appreciate it.
We will start right from the beginning. Dr. Baker?
Okay, well, thanks. I want to say this, first of all, because everybody wants to get to the bathroom. I start with the idea that everybody here and everybody sits here on a usual basis, cares about the schools. And so I want to say that I'm here because I think I have an expertise that, not to say that the board is lacking all expertise, but I have expertise that isn't currently on the board. And I also, I care strongly about the schools. And I think I can provide skills of being able to go to different constituencies. There are many constituencies in the city, understand the needs and address those needs. I believe that Grand Rapids is at a crossroads of where we can be a model city school system that people will be writing research dissertations on, and I want to be a part of making that happen.
Thank you. Mrs. Geetson?
I want to give my commitment that I will give 110% to this effort. I give 110% to everything I do, and I wouldn't do this if I didn't think I could. I believe that I've convinced you of my passion, commitment, and skills this evening, and I commit to the teachers, the support staff, the administration, that I will work to build the bridges that are currently under siege. so that we can work together around our top priority, which are our children. Thank you. Again, my name is Jane Geets, and please vote on May 6th.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin?
I have been extremely grateful for this process. I've learned a lot over the past few weeks and months in talking to the community and being involved somewhat behind the scenes with some of the things that are going on in our district. I'm proud of our district. I'm committed to our district. My wife and I have lived in this area just a few blocks away for 36 years. I have the time and I have the experience that's necessary to understand the issues from the point of view of those who are most closely working with our kids. As a teacher and administrator and even as a secretary, I've delighted in the opportunities that we have for our kids. I want to see those continue and improve over time, and I agree too that we need to come together as a community and solve these problems that exist and the perceptions that people have about Grand Rapids Public School. Again, I will be a loud cheerleader for our GRPS.
Thank you. Reverend Hoskins?
Again, I want to thank the City High Middle School PTSA Legislative Action Committee and the Greater Grand Rapids Area PTA Council. I am who I serve. I'm a product of the school system. I'm a 1977 graduate of Outer Hills High School. My siblings are graduates of this district. My children are graduates of the district, 4 of my adult children. I yet have 2 children in the district, a 12th grader at Ottawa, 8th grader at Alger. My wife worked at Park School for 3 years. So I think it's clear that I and my family are believers in the endless possibilities that can come from an educational experience here in Grand Rapids Public Schools. I need your support to continue on with the things that we've started. I can continue in the role as a consensus builder, as a change agent, as a reformer, as a fiscal hawk, and a small business venture advocate. My background and my board experience will allow me to continue to bring continuity to the current board. So please, ma'am, please, sir, vote for Kenneth Wayne Hoskins I on May 2nd.
Mrs. Lanier?
Thank you to City High Middle PTSA. Thank you to Tempe and Ted for your service here this evening, and thanks to the candidates. Again, my name is Sunita Lanier, and I ask that you would consider voting for me to finish out my term. Again, I am running for the 1-year term on the ballot, and if you want more information about me and my campaign, please visit my website at electsunita.com. I am unique in that although my daughter attends GRPS schools, she's only attended for 2 years. I was able to come to this district, not really come back, but because I had shopped around after she had attended the Christian school district most of her school years. I'm invested in this community, invested in this school district because I see that there are some positive things happening in the district. I want to be a part of that, and I will continue to make the best decisions if you vote for me to continue the term. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
You know, I think that Grand Rapids Public Schools are the best school district in the world. I think we have some of the best students in the world, and I am proud to be a graduate of Central High School, and I will yell that from the mountaintops. I'm also very close to the student population. You know, I've worked with our students from Central High School and Union High School for the past 8 years, helping to prepare students for college. So I'm asking voters to support me to restore that sense of community to our schools and to restore accountability and oversight. So I ask for your support on May 6th.
But being a board member, it's not that you are here because you're looking for a big check. We don't have those big checks. This is citizen responsibilities, and I'm very proud of representing 81% of the kids in Grand Rapids who live in the poverty level. Those underserved kids need people who have passion for education. We can work together, all of us, and make sure that the kids are very well educated for the future of Grand Rapids. We want to have a board that is balanced with representing the whole community. I'm going to ask one more time to vote for Luis Peña May 6th, or your very choice.
We'd like to thank all of the candidates, and again, to all the voters. Tuesday, May 6th is a very important day for Grand Rapids Public Schools and for our community overall. We ask that we encourage you to go out and vote, and we ask that you consider these fine people as part of the school board. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.